The body weeps the tears that the eyes refuse to shed.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah. So in other words, the body, Blanka, you're all over this. You know all this stuff, right? The body is expressing all the things that you refuse to allow yourself to process your emotions about.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to my podcast, Renew Motherhood. And this episode is being stressed out as a mom. And here are your 3 best tips. So for this, I have an incredible guest, Rita Desnoyers-Garcia. Wonderful name. Strange a little. Yeah, it's difficult to spell, but yes, and to pronounce. But here we go. Please briefly introduce yourself, Rita. Who are you? Where are you from?
Thanks so much for having me on, first of all, Blanka. I really appreciate it. So my name is Rita Desnoyers-Garcia, and I work with stressed out professional moms. So these are women who are juggling a lot of things in their life. Their kids, raising their kids, they have a family, sometimes they have a spouse, they have their job, their career, the things they're interested in, and they're trying to control everything and trying to please everyone. I totally relate to that, and I've come up with some tools and strategies that really help them a lot.
So your passion is to help stressed out mothers.
Yeah.
And how do you come across this topic? Because I know you're a mother of 3 children.
Yeah, it's what I've struggled with. It's really everything that I struggle. I think a lot of coaches, that's their origin story, is that they really struggled and were challenged by things in their life. They found out some strategies and tools and solutions, and then they're like, wow, I can't keep this a secret. I have to talk about it and share this, and then get to use them over and over and over with yourself as well. So that's exactly what I do. I was a mom of 3 kids, 4 and under. I was trying to grow my business, my health and wellness business. It was not working out well. Everything was kind of a disaster. It imploded. And I remember I was like literally sitting on the floor crying, and all of these beliefs about myself came up, the stuff that I was trying to keep under the water. If you can relate, things like you're a failure, you don't know what you're doing, you're quitting again, you're not a great mom, you're just not enough. There was a lot of not enoughness, a lot of failure, a lot of you're not worthy. All that stuff was coming up. It was not a great afternoon, but I am so glad it happened, because it put me in a position to be desperate enough to consider that there may be another way to do this, that maybe the way I was doing it, even though it got me to where I was, which was, living in a nice place with a wonderful husband and children, that what I was doing just wasn't working anymore. It was like trying to fit in your old pajamas when you were a kid, There's nothing wrong with the pajamas. They just don't fit anymore. It's time for new pajamas. So
this is always a little difficult with children.
Yeah, exactly. And getting pajamas on is a completely different conversation. But
yeah, it is. But no, I don't think it's a different conversation, because this is similar to let go, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let go the old
force
pajama
them to get in there. Yeah,
and
there's
to
no
say, okay,
forcing,
I have to get a new
fighting,
one.
right? Resisting, all of those things. So I was at a place where I was just like, I'm done. I forget it. I can't do this anymore. I need to find a different way. And that's when I had just read this book called The Power of Belief. And the author of the book he did his own coaching, but then he had proteges, people that he had trained to coach. And I went to his website and I found this picture of this guy. I just liked his face, really. I just went on instinct. I'm like, I like the way you look. And he had a business background, so I hired him. And one of the first phone calls we had, he said to me, Rita, just for this moment, can you be kind and gentle with yourself? And I thought, what? I don't get it. What's the point? What's the point of being kind and gentle? Aren't you going to tell me a new strategy or how to do this better or how to be more efficient or something like that? Be kind and gentle? And then he's like, just trust me. So I did that. I did this thing called being kind and gentle with yourself for about 30 seconds to a minute. And I started to cry because I felt so much relief that I wasn't hitting my head against the wall anymore. I wasn't doing it the old way where I felt miserable.
Yes.
And I thought there's something really big here and significant to pay attention to. And that became a seed that I grew over the years, where I ended up writing a book about self-compassion. I coach a lot of stressed out moms in self-compassion as a foundation,
Yes.
for making lasting change, not just like an extra add-on. Like, no, you build the house with self-compassion amongst other things, but self-compassion needs to be there.
That's great, because this was your transformation part, right? So it was all an inside struggle, because from the outside, everything looked great with
on paper, all looked
children.
great.
And so no one could probably relate to this and say, hey, Rita, you have got everything. What's wrong with you?
Right. And I meet people like that all the time. I meet a lot of moms who, on paper, things look good. They may have other things that people go, wow, that really is a challenge. But in general, they're not starving. They're not in a war-torn country. Their life is not at risk every second.
Yeah.
They're relatively stable, but they're not happy. And that's not a good life. That's not a good life. And because they're not happy, and because they're not in these dire straits, they feel guilty on top of that, and they feel shame on top of that. So that's even more resistance to making a change. Because if you're not feeling good and then you have all this other stuff on top of it, man, that's hard to change.
So where would you start?
So I start with breath. I start with slow down your breathing, slow down your movements, just give yourself a break. I have a little background noise. One of my kids sounds like they're doing something back there. Okay. Just taking a breath, a conscious breath, is an act of self-compassion in my book. Okay. You're just honoring the body. You're recognizing that your physiology is at a real high stress level, and you're honoring it and saying, okay, we're just gonna calm you. Not in you gotta stop feeling this way, but just sort of like, okay, we're just gonna slow down. Maybe put your hand on your heart, and maybe even say, I love you. You're okay. You're safe. It's okay. It's safe to feel this way. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Once again, in a very kind way, not in a dismissive way. I really feel like so much of this is befriending ourselves instead of working against ourselves.
Is this a kind of meditation? No, it's not. It has nothing to do with meditating.
There's certainly ways you could do it in a meditative way, but it's really just a mindful way. It's really just becoming conscious of what's going on, and not to get distracted by all the outside stuff, but just to go inward. And I've been known to walk about my house or walk around my neighborhood just going, I love you. I love you. Okay. I love you. It's okay. You're going to be okay. It's safe. And that the body will start going, okay. Okay. It stops spinning out so much. And the other thing that I do that I think is really helpful is I focus on the sensation in the body instead of all of the mind stuff, instead of all the like anger. Like, we all have these emotions, and it can be helpful to name them. But I feel like the next level of that is to like, okay, what does it feel like in your body?
Yeah. Physical.
Let's focus on the sensation and get away from the whole story that's triggering it. Let's just focus on the body. I feel this sensation. I'm going to put my hand on where I feel it and just say, okay, it's safe to feel this. Thank you for coming up. Thanks for showing yourself. What do you want to say, and what do you need? That's what a friend does, right?
Yes. So would you say that the body is giving you signs to look at it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our body's talking to us all the time. It's a constant communication, but often we're not really taught about how to deal with that, right? Yeah. We're like, our education is
taught in school.
From here to here. There's not a lot of like this thing going on.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who was my chiropractor for a long time. He's retired now, but he used to say this one thing that he learned from his mentor, which was the body weeps the tears that the eyes refuse to shed.
Oh, wow. That's
So in other words, the body, Blanka, you're all over this. You know all this stuff, right? The body is expressing all the things that you refuse to allow yourself to process your emotions about.
Yes. That's great. But I love this. I love the sentence to really to look at it, because it's so true. there are so many situations when we don't allow us to cry, when we don't allow us to go into the emotion and say, okay, no, let's
Yep.
do it another way. And but it's not gone. It's still in the body
So
and
there.
it shows up in some way. So pain, headache, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and to have a look at this is great. I love this.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was taught from my coach was, you know, and it reminded me of contractions. When you're having a baby, the contractions go up and then they go down, right?
Mhm.
And so you learn how to ride those. You learn, okay, this is the pattern of what they do. It's not going to keep going up and up and up and up and up. It is going to go over. I
Mhm.
just have to learn how to allow it to go through my body, right? That's the same thing with emotion. So many times we cut our emotions off and they never get to that peak and go down. You never experience the going down part. So you think if you cut it off early, you think, I got to cut it off because if it's never going to
Mhm.
go down, right? I got to cut it off with whatever, eating, drinking, scrolling,
Yeah.
whatever, you know? But I remember that first week I was with my coach. He's like, I just want you to notice how you feel, and I want you to notice how it goes up and it goes down. Don't cut it off. Don't try to do the usual things. Just allow yourself to feel it. And at first it was a little scary. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to have a heart attack here? Like I can really feel this. And then I would notice, I'd just go, okay, I'm just going to notice and notice and notice, and it would go down. And I felt like, why am I scared of this? It
Mhm.
allowed me to not be afraid of being afraid or being anxious. I was no longer anxious about being anxious. I wasn't afraid about being afraid, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I felt like, wow, this is just energy going through me.
Mhm.
It's information, and I don't have to stay there. It's not information that you keep your hand on the hot stove, right? You take
Mhm.
your hand off, but
Mhm.
I'm not gonna just try to cut it off and numb it or distract myself. I can do other things, and I don't have to be afraid of it.
That's great. Wow. But still, I think it's, yeah, I can imagine that it's not that easy to you say, okay, I was afraid. It was scary. So do you think you can do this alone?
It depends on what's going on. If this is related to trauma, I would do it with a practitioner,
Mhm.
right? And that's something to talk to somebody about, your history and all that stuff.
So there are different levels, right?
Yeah, I think there are some that you need some intervention with, but a lot of times I had a low level anxiety going through my life. I realized as I kind of tracked these emotions, I was like, geez, I'm feeling anxious a lot. And it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with anything, right? Like I'm at a stoplight feeling anxious. I'm at the grocery store feeling anxious, I'm
Can you say
cleaning up.
why? About what?
About what? A lot of it was these beliefs I had.
Okay.
So a lot of the beliefs were, I'm not a good mom. So for instance, get up in the
Mhm.
morning, rush, 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 getting the kids to where they need to go. That usually didn't go very well because I was rushing my kids and they, all
Yeah.
that resistance and all that. And it would be this like, come on, we gotta go, we gotta go. And I get him in the car and I'd be driving and then I'd be at the stoplight and I could feel my anxiety going up. And the other thing he asked me to do was, if you're not driving, just write down what are the thoughts going through your brain, right? As you're feeling it. And I realized they were all about, I have to make sure people know I'm a good mom. So if we're late to school, oof,
Mhm.
that's the teacher's gonna know, she's gonna like get mad at me, then she's not gonna think I'm a good mom. So it was very important to be on time to school, even though really, when you're in grade school, that not really that
No
important.
one cares, really.
And then
Let's
I had
go.
to get really honest with what's more important,
Yeah,
being on time to school and my image
right.
around, how I'm perceived, or having a good morning with my kids,
Yeah,
right? So,
right.
and it wasn't like I was launching them off into their day in a good way. They were like, oh, okay, okay,
That's
that's not a
right.
great way to start your day.
Always hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yes, it was
Because they
always
don't get
hurry,
up
hurry,
this
hurry.
time that they had to and stayed in bed, and then you have to make them move somehow.
Yes, yes. So what happened was he's like, I want you to experiment. So then I knew, okay, the belief was I'm not a good mom because I'm late, right? And so then we had a he and I had a little conversation about that, and I realized, you know, I got to call BS on myself. If
Mhm.
you're late doesn't make yourself a nut. He's like, where did you get that in the mom manual that if you're late with your kids, that means you're a terrible mom? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I just made it up. And he said, well, what if you didn't have that belief? What if it was okay to be late?
Yeah.
Like maybe you're late every day, you
Yeah.
know? And I was just like, oh, that would be great. If I could be late, then I could kind of relax a little bit. So he goes, okay, so why don't you keep that in mind and work on that and then see how your morning goes,
Mhm.
right? And I would notice that I wasn't pushing them all the time. And, lo and behold, we weren't as late as
Okay.
often because I wasn't go, 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 like a drill
Yes.
sergeant. It was more like, okay, we'll get there when we get there. I'd rather have a good day with you in the morning and launch you off in this nice way. And I was able, some of my kids were old enough to hear reason. And I'd say, if you're late to school all the time, then you're kind of catching up with everybody versus getting there and be able to get settled. So it's to your advantage to be on time, but
Right.
it's not me policing you. Like, I'm not going to do that
Right.
anymore, but it's up to
Right.
you. And I just noticed naturally because my energy had changed, because I
Yes.
felt like this is not an indication of being a terrible mom, then they kind of just corresponded to that. Like, okay, we're going to chill out. And it just became a little easier. And then new ideas came to me about how to deal with it better, right? So it wasn't just that my perception changed, which is huge,
Yes.
but I was more receptive and able to come up with some time-saving strategies or different ways to approach things that would lead to a better result for
Yes.
everybody.
Great.
Yeah.
So would you say you have to calm down that you can get more ideas, that you can be inspired instead of, okay, I have to do this and next task and next doing and hurry up and all those things. And then
Yeah.
you try to push yourself
Yeah.
somehow so it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, because it's different parts of the brain, right? If you're really anxious, you can't even, this part of your brain that does all the reasoning and problem solving isn't even activated. You're like back here. You're like,
Yeah.
and you don't come up with great ideas like that. You come up
Yes.
with great ideas when you're calm enough that you can use your reasoning faculties to come up with solutions. And that's another, little pro tip here is anticipating what may happen when you're in that part of your brain. Maybe you have things that help you along the way, and it could be breathe, just writing down breathe, or here's some things that you can do to make it easier,
Yes.
right? So I have stuff, especially in the beginning, I had stuff plastered all over my kitchen, anywhere I was, on my computer screen, on my refrigerator, that would just remind me, right, breathe. On my phone. Well, when I was started out, the phones weren't as powerful as they are now, but just like, you're doing a good job, or one day at a time, or pack the lunch the night before, or just like practical nuts and bolts things,
Yeah.
and then more psychological or energetic things. Like the more that you're calm, the calmer your kids will be, and you'll be able to handle them when they're not calm. You're just going to do better. So
So you
put your
really could
oxygen mask on
experience
you
their
first.
responding to your energy.
Yes, they're totally respond. It's like I love the dog whisperer because do you know this show, The Dog Whisperer?
No, I don't.
So it's a
Probably
dog
don't have
training
this
show,
yet.
essentially. They're training dog, and I'm not saying, just disclaimer, I'm not saying children are dogs or other people are dogs, but he works a lot with the humans around their energy and how
Mhm.
their dogs react to it and interpret that, and how people are trying to do things with their dogs in a way that's not working because their energy is so off. So I was just like, you know what? Calm, assertive energy. That's his mantra. Calm, assertive energy. If I can maintain that as much as possible, everything else so much easier to deal with.
Wow, that's great. So, and it's proven if you can do this with dogs, there must be something that is connected. And if dogs do react to this or do respond to this energy, how much more will your own children and your environment respond to this? Because you are, yeah, we're human beings. We are also
We're
connected.
energetic beings. Yeah,
Right.
social energetic beings. We feel each other. Some feel more than others or more registers, but we all feel it on some level. It may not be conscious. People who don't say they feel energy will be like, I didn't like that guy. I can't even tell you why, but I just didn't like him. Well, it was the energetic thing, not a
That's
good match.
Yeah.
They'll come up with a logical reason. I didn't like his hair. I didn't like what he said, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
But usually it's the reading of the
You
energy.
always like to justify it.
Yeah, that's what we
Say,
do.
okay, I don't like this, I don't like him, I don't like her
Yeah,
because of. And then you
yeah, that's
think,
what we do.
why?
Yeah, we got to come up with a reason. That's what we do. That's like how we buy things, right? It's
Yeah.
emotional, but we come up with logical reasons why.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
What would you say was your biggest mistake that you did on this journey of coming from stress to calmness and yes,
Yeah.
transformation?
So many, Blanca.
Oh, wow.
Trial and error. I would say the biggest mistake that I made was really the initial one, which was I am going to berate myself and beat myself up into happiness. I am going to bully myself into bliss. Doesn't work. Something's not working, so I'm just going to do it over and over again and louder. It's sort of like when you go to a country and you don't know the language, and instead of trying to speak the language, you just say what you said louder and slower. It's like, no, not working.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't mean that the other one is not listening. You can hear.
This means I still don't understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. So, yeah, that would be the biggest one. And I have to remind myself, about that from time to time is like, let's go back to the basics. Don't beat yourself up. Let's try to be kind and gentle with ourselves. Let's take a breath and slow it down. This morning, I was unpacking my groceries and I could feel myself, anticipating the next activity, and I could feel a little bit of that energy. And I was like, slow down. Just open the door, grab the groceries, and slowly and calmly walk into the house. And it works like, as my parents would say, it works like a dollar watch. It works really well.
Wow.
In the old days, $1 was a lot. So,
yeah. So I think everything is a process, right? So even if you know about this, firstly, you have to remind yourself throughout the day. So during the day, always to get back to this. So even if you know it, it doesn't mean that you just keep it all the day, right?
Well, yeah, think about it as like if you take a yoga class, right? So if you take a yoga class, you don't take that class once and go, I'm John, I'm good. You go back to the yoga class, right? You have to keep limber and you're stretching and you're going, right? No one would go to one yoga class and say, yeah, I did it. I'm done with, that's it. I'm all yoga. It's like, no, you go back and you repeat it. It becomes your lifestyle. Now, the more you do it, the more likely you are to do it, and the easier it is to kind of get back on track. And I think that's another thing that people make a mistake about is, oh, I'm going to do it twice and then I'll do it forever. Usually when we do new things, it takes a lot more energy and effort to do the new thing than the old thing, because that's how our brain works. So yeah, you're going to forget. It's okay. You give yourself a break. You get back on track. So I do it much more easily because I've done it a lot. And there are other tools that I do and a lot of other people do that help to just eliminate some things that usually get in the way so they don't get in the way anymore. So it's not like you're starting from square one every single time. You go up in levels, but then you got to go back to basics sometimes, right? It's sort of a pattern of you improve, right? And then you kind of plateau for a while, and then you want to go to the next level and you kind of go back a little bit, and then you improve and then plateau, and then you go back a little bit and then you improve. So you are advancing.
Yes.
But, as they say, it's more like dancing.
Yeah.
You go back and you go forth and you go forward a little more. It's the cha-cha or whatever it's called. It's okay. It's part of the deal.
I love the cha-cha, by the way. So, but that's another part. Yes, you also do, and I like to mention this here now, you also do comedy, right?
Yes, I'm just starting a class this Thursday with 5 amazing women. I teach stand-up comedy to moms. So I know it's a little different, right? So comedy has been something I've done my whole life in various forms, formally and informally. And I took a stand-up class in 2017. It scared me so much because I was going out of my comfort zone, but the rewards were so amazing on the other side of it, and it had such a positive impact on the moms in the audience, who, because all my jokes were about being a mom, and so it was very therapeutic for them as well, so that's an added benefit. So I started doing stand-up comedy. I did a show a couple years ago along with a woman. We were in a group, and she had never done comedy before, and so I was kind of like mentoring her and, showing her the ropes. And she approached me after that and said, hey, would you ever consider teaching comedy? Because I have some friends and it was such a good experience, and I think you'd be really good at it. And I have a house you can do, like she had everything planned already, and she was literally giving.
She just needed you.
Yeah, so it was just like, okay. And there were 4 women who came together who didn't really know each other. All of them were petrified on one level or another about whether it was, I'm afraid to be in front of a microphone, or I don't think I'm that funny, I'm afraid I'll, bomb, or I don't know, whatever it was. So we came together, I taught the class, and then we did a show, and it was magical. It was so magical because all of the friends and family came. They all killed, as they say in the comedy world. They all did so well. Got a lot of laughs. There was laughing and crying and hugging, and I can't believe I did that. That was so amazing. What can't I do now? It was so transformative that they're like, when can we do it again? So we did it again. And then, some people went on their way, and I lost access to the house because the poor woman who was lending us our house was like, we're renovating now. So I'm like, okay. So this time we're doing a class in my basement, and then I have a restaurant that we're going to do the show at. I'm super excited about that. So right now it's just for local people in New Jersey. And I've gotten a lot of requests from people who say, if you ever do this virtually, I would love to be in it. So it's something I'm considering, how to do a show virtually, but it's just one of those things that actually makes a lot of sense with what I do, because it's about trying something new, having a different perspective, changing your mindset, getting out of your comfort zone, and getting all of the rewards of that. I honestly think every time I go out of my comfort zone, I learn something, I grow in a way, I feel like, you know what, maybe it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out, but I'm so glad I did it. Because it was easier than I thought. It wasn't as scary as I thought. I was more successful than I thought. Or I learned so much about what I want to do the next time that I did this time. I don't want to do that again. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
This is what life, right? Life starts outside your comfort zone. So It's really, especially for women, I would say of a certain age, you hit 35, 40, 45, 50, and you're going, is that all there is? I need to do something different. A lot of women in my world would do a half marathon, or they would do a triathlon, which is all great. Some women are like, I don't want to do that. Oh, this I could do. Okay, let's do this. That's their triathlon. That's their moment to go, wow, I can't believe I just did that. That was amazing. In a group where you get support and they all cheer each other on. So it's magical.
Well, and actually laughing also reduces stress, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think laughter, they say laughter is the best medicine, right? So It's certainly something I love to do. When I think about the best moments of my life, they always had laughter included in them. So I include that in my day as much as possible. I try to start the day with my pals, where I go and have my tea and we laugh. And then, I do things like this, which is so much fun. And then I get to teach the ladies and do the coaching, and then just laughing with my pals. I feel like it's so good for the soul, so good for the body, so good for the mind. It literally releases things just like crying does, just like sneezing, yawning, eliminating whatever you need to eliminate. It's just another way of release and enjoy. Like, are we here?
Right.
Why else are we here? Really? Yeah. Have a good time.
Yes, absolutely. We shall feel the life, right?
Yes.
Get into our emotions and really to embrace this, that we are able to do it. So, okay. So what's your offer? What do you offer for women who are stressed out?
So Initially, if someone sort of
You wrote a book?
my free
You have
gift,
the book?
yeah. So I
Sure.
have my book. Yes, I have my
Yeah, okay.
Self-Compassion Project book. So that is for sale. You can buy that on Amazon or through my site. That is a book that has lots of exercises about how to cultivate self-compassion for yourself. It's got some humor in it too, because everything I create has a little humor in it. If you just want to get on my mailing list, and stay connected, I have a freebie, and that is it's called a rapid stress reliever, and it's literally teaches you how to do breathing to decrease your stress. So I have that. And then I have workshops that come up. I'm having a workshop. I don't know when this is going to air, but September 16th, I'm doing a workshop, which is, I don't know, we'll see. Well, I have other workshops coming up, but I have different workshops. Some are about self-compassion. Some are about planning your happier life. Some are about your subconscious mind, because I also offer that. I offer tools on how to reprogram what you're believing and thinking so that you don't get so anxious. So that you automatically are like, oh, that's no big deal. We'll work around it. Whereas before it was like, no, you're just like, all right, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
Imagine if your day was like that. If you were just like, oh, this thing, okay, we'll work around it, versus, my life is over, a lot easier, right? So, and then of course I have the comedy for women who are local.
So where can people find you? You mentioned your website.
So my website is called becomingawake.com, and it has all my offerings on it. It's got a little bit about me, and it's a lot about what your life may be looking for or be looking like. And if it looks like this and you're looking to change it, what I can help you with.
That's great. So are you also on social media? Can people find you there?
I have a Facebook group, which I really encourage people to join, because I do a lot of things in there, and there are a lot of practitioners in there too. So if you're looking for a nutritionist or a physical trainer or a massage therapist or Reiki master, they're all in the group, and I do things in there all the time. So that group is called Calm Mom Alliance. It's a wonderful group with wonderful people in it. You meet a lot of moms there,
Yeah.
all working on the same kind of thing. They want to feel more calm and confident and clear, have more fun in their life.
Yeah. Okay, so that's great. People can find you, reach out to you, and get in contact.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for being my guest here. It was a pleasure to have you on. So for all the listeners, please stay tuned, subscribe this channel, and yes, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Blanka.